Hello, my name is Lola Salamah. I'm in the MAT program, and today I'm going to be discussing a book I read entitled What Great Teachers Do Differently, 17 Things That Matters Most by Todd Whitaker. So the central premise of the book is that this book looks at teaching methods overall and separates the strategies that are great from the strategies that should be left behind. It covers what great teachers do that sets them apart from the rest of the teachers who may not be so great. Although there is not one great answer to what makes a teacher great, there are things that they all have in common, and that is putting the students first no matter what, and continually pushing for what is best for their students, practicing the art of teaching, and learning to adapt to change and embracing it. Great teachers realize that it is not one great habit that makes them great. It is several aspects of learning, teaching, caring, trusting, respecting, expecting, and being clear and firm from the very first day. So the four main points that I gathered from this book are the following. However, this book had several really great points and discussed in detail a lot of several things that are very important. However, I felt these four were the most important to me. So the first one is to focus on the students first. The second one was to have high expectations for the students as well as yourself as a teacher. The third is the prevention versus revenge. And the fourth one is power of praise. So the first main point is focusing on the students first. It is easy to say, put the kids first. However, not everyone actually managed to put the kids first. What makes teaching hard is that it matters every day. It makes a difference every day. Focusing on students and putting them first helps great teachers make the right decisions every day, all the way to the end of the year. Focusing on students first can help a teacher maintain a positive attitude and can also help maintain the practices and habits that support their best work. I think this is an important point to remember because every single day the teacher has many choices to make, many decisions to decide on. But however, a great teacher will make decisions based on the needs of their own students and not on their own convenience. The second main point I have are high expectations. So high expectations are important to a successful classroom, but it is important for teachers to remember that high expectations should be held for themselves too. I thought this to be an important point because even the worst teachers have high expectations for students. They expect students to be engaged no matter how irrelevant the material is, and they expect students to pay attention no matter how boring the class might be, and they expect students to be well-behaved no matter how the teacher treats them. Those are a lot of high expectations for the students. However, what really matters is what teachers expect of themselves. Great teachers have expectations for students, but even higher expectations for themselves. Poor teachers, on the other hand, have high expectations for the students, but much lower expectations for themselves. On top of that, they also have unrealistically high expectations for everyone else as well. For example, these are the teachers who expect the principals to be perfect, every parent to be flawless, and they also expect their peers to think highly of them. A great teacher asks what they themselves can do differently, and the challenge is to have the teacher focus on their own performances and strive always to be great. The third main point here is entitled Prevention versus Revenge. And the difference between an effective teacher and a non-effective teacher when it comes to behavior is that the effective teacher has one goal, which is to keep that behavior from happening again. And the non-effective teacher has a goal of revenge. And revenge basically means punishment after misbehavior. And I chose this point because it's important to remember that prevention can start from the very first day of school. Probably one of the hardest things a teacher has to deal with is behavior. If a teacher is if a teacher, is well prepared before the first day of school, behavior problem preventions can be an easier task to control. Some good options of what to do when a student misbehaves in class is to redirect the student, give them eye contact so they know that you're watching them, be in close proximity to the student who's misbehaving, ignore the behavior, even praise those who are not misbehaving and are doing well. So these approaches do not always work all the time, but all teachers have those same options, but not always the same results. So a teacher must adapt to their students and see what works best for them. But working on prevention is very important versus revenge. Punishing after behavior is not as effective. So my fourth point that I chose is a very important one, I believe. It's called the power of praise. And so the author goes into 5 subcategories of praising. And I thought this is one of the most important points in the book because it goes into detail, really how much praise can positively affect students. So the first subcategory is called authenticity, which means basically praising students for something genuine, recognizing for something that is true. Some critics of praise feel that too much praise will lose its credibility or that it will become less believable if it happens too much. However, realistically, if it's authentic, it will always be believable. For example, if you have a friend who loses 50 pounds, you don't have to wait until they've lost 50 pounds to compliment them. You can compliment them throughout their whole weight loss journey, and they'll never feel overpraised or that your praise is less valuable or motivating because it's offered throughout their journey. The second subcategory is effective praise. And effective praise is specific and often becomes the behavior that will continue. For example, acknowledging that a student did an effective job of asking questions during a class period can help reinforce this learning skill. The third subcategory is immediate praise. This means recognizing positive efforts and contributions in a timely manner. Providing feedback when good things happen is an important element in making reinforcement effective. The fourth subcategory is praise must be clean. And this is very important because a lot of people find themselves guilty of this without even realizing it. So if praise is not clean, if you issue it simply to get someone to do something in the future, then that's incorrect. If praise and reinforcement is to be clean, it cannot include the word but. For example, if a teacher says, I appreciate the work you did on your math today, but you need to finish your social studies assignment, then the student in the situation that we hope to be praising will very likely only remember the part after the word but, which was simply a criticism. If we really intend to praise someone, then it is important that we separate these two comments. And finally, the fifth subcategory is effective praise is private. Praise needs to be given in a private atmosphere without an audience. Praise is great and it can make students feel wonderful. However, in front of audience, it might be embarrassing for some students and their peers might be a little bit resentful. So a couple of important teaching strategies that I believe I would like to implement when I become a teacher are programs come and go, but teachers stay and must adapt to the change, accept it, and flourish in it, which I'll go over in a second. And the second one is the teacher is the variable in the classroom, and it is not what's done, it's how it's done. Excuse me. So for the first strategy about programs will always be changing, and we must accept the changes and adapt to them. It's a simple complex concept, but it's not easy to accomplish. It's never about a program, and it's always about people. An example provided in the book was about two different teachers who were given the opportunity and volunteered to take over the old school gym and convert it into an open classroom. So these two teachers volunteered, and all the other teachers were horrified to think of even taking such an opportunity when the principal suggested it. However, by the middle of the school year, these two teachers had used up every inch of space in the gym, filled it with reading centers and discovery tables and such. And the environment was exciting and successful. It was so successful that the other teachers immediately concluded that open classrooms are the secret to good teaching. However, it was simply the presence of excellent teachers who accepted the change and which made the difference. The reason I chose this strategy is because I realized that in the school system, things are changing consistently. Every year, students change. Every few years, standards change. And all the time, new procedures or policies are changing or being implemented. Daily basis, our schedules can change. Therefore, as a beginning teacher, I need to realize that even if I have come to perfect in my ways of teaching, I need to be open to change. I need to be ready for it. What might work one year might not work the next. So I will proceed, but I will not hesitate if I must change. The second strategy is about the teacher being the variable in the classroom. It's how it is done. The author in the book gives an example of how a teacher is a variable in the classroom. The teacher is in a situation where the students are doing poorly on a test, and the teacher should ask themselves these following questions. If the best teacher in the school gives an assignment and students perform poorly, of those whom does he or she blame? And the predictable answer is his or herself. Now that's for the great teacher. They are blaming themselves. Now, if the worst teacher in the school gives an assignment and the kids perform poorly, whom does he or she blame? And the predictable answers are the kids or the parents or the administration, or they can blame drugs or TV or last year's teacher or so on and so forth. So whose behavior can a teacher actually control in his or her own classroom? The only possible answer is his or her own behavior. So the variable here is not the students doing poorly on assignment, because that happens in both groups. The variable is how the teacher responds. Good teachers consistently strive to improve, and they focus on something they can't control. And they do not focus on something they can't control, I thought this strategy is important because a teacher should realize that they are the center of the classroom. A teacher can create an environment which is positive or negative. A teacher can control her classroom, or she can lose control. She can demonstrate responsibility and expect it back from her students, or she can demonstrate irresponsibility. Every little thing the teacher does will affect the entirety of her students and in the classroom every single day. So I hope as a beginning teacher I can learn how to be the best role model and be the good variable in my classroom. So there's a few quotes from this book that I really enjoyed and picked out. And so it's those who know how they come across to others and how others receive their behavior work more effectively. And my favorite is if you always respond appropriately, everyone else will be on your team. I think that is very true. And the last one I chose is great teachers care about their students. They understand that behaviors and beliefs are tied to emotion, and they understand the power of emotion to jumpstart change. These are very powerful words, and I really enjoyed this book, and I really recommend this book to all beginning teachers or even teachers who've been on the job for many years. It's great advice, and it's a great go-to book. And I hope you all read it. Thank you very much.